بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. It's a pleasure and a privilege to address you all this afternoon, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This kind of gathering that brings together young people from our extended region and the world is essential for building bridges and bonds that will help, with dedication and activism, to shape and define the future of our world. They act as forums for face-to-face discussion and debate in which the essential skills of negotiation, problem solving, and I hope empathy and understanding can be learned and refined. In the present world where technology and cyber communication are increasingly dominating human interaction, these basic skills are often forgotten, and yet are essential for the management of the challenges we face as a species. I've been allocated 20 minutes to speak with 10 minutes for questions and discussion at the end. But if the organizers don't mind, I think I'll try to speak for a bit less and open the floor up for the questions, because I think that's probably more exciting and fun for all of us, including myself. So having looked at your agenda and the topics you've applied yourselves to over the last few days, let me just say a few words to focus our attention on the general themes that we might delve into during the questions, although I'm open to any direction you'd like to go in. I must say that part of the reason for this approach is that when I was so kindly invited by Nadine to participate, it's nice to put a face to a name, in the 16th annual Amman MUN conference, I sat down to think about the topics that I might discuss, and my mind wandered through the principles and ideals that I might refer to or reflect on, or the inspirational examples of constructive and positive leadership in the world today that I might allude to. But the truth is, the more I thought about it, the more disenchanted I became. I don't want to stand here and lecture at you when we can all see the hypocrisy of so many of our own actions and of the actions of those in leadership positions around the world. The distance between the ideals they claim to defend and espouse and the reality of their behavior, and indeed the short-sighted and contradictory and destructive policies of so many nations whose guiding principles and constitutions are so great and grand in their commitment to the betterment of mankind can leave one dispirited and downcast. That is why it is so important for us to encourage and engage in events like this. Because before we can even get into the details of conflict around the world and attempt to find constructive ways of resolving them, it is essential that we redefine and reassert our values as human beings. As for all our advances in technology and development, our poor stewardship of this beautiful planet that the Almighty has blessed us with will increasingly challenge us all in the years to come. Global warming, sea level rise, and the pollution of our oceans, with the associated problems of severe weather, flooding, population displacement, desertification, changing patterns of infectious disease, and threats to food security are very real and will affect us all wherever we live. These environmental factors will create and contribute to stressors that will exacerbate the problems of poverty and the potential for greater conflict and armed struggle, along with population migrations that lead in turn to xenophobia, fear, and contribute to the rise of political views that threaten regional and global stability. Added to these problems, human society will face enormous disruptions as a result of advances in technology. Automation, artificial intelligence, and biogenetic engineering. These technologies will impact the way we live our lives and the way we are employed in a manner that remained firmly in the domain of science fiction until only a few years ago. Artificial intelligence and robotics will open up new horizons for us, but also have the potential to create vast unemployment across the globe. As jobs are replaced by programs, algorithms, and robots, these changes, while affecting a large swath of humanity, will especially impact low-income families in menial jobs such as transportation, manufacturing, and agriculture, and will contribute to an increasingly stratified population, where vast wealth is accrued and controlled by a very small global elite, who are in a position to dominate the key technologies we increasingly rely on in every aspect of our lives. This process could very well be compounded by the advent of genetic engineering and biotechnology. With all the potential benefits to humanity that they promise, there is also the very real risk that the cost of these technologies will be so high that only a part of the world's population will be able to benefit from them, exacerbating inequality by allowing for the genetic engineering of some to be healthier, smarter, faster, and stronger, while the majority are unable to enjoy these advantages. We've seen throughout human history how competition for resources and inequality contribute to and drive conflict. As long as peoples feel alienated, disenfranchised, and without hope, they will be susceptible to ideologies of hatred and extremism. The world today is filled with such examples of people falling prey to and being radicalized and manipulated by those who would use despair as a weapon to achieve their ambitions, including the horrific distortion of our great Islamic faith by those who have sought to prey on disenfranchised and vulnerable people that or examples of which we've seen in the last few years. So how might we approach these problems? Most importantly, we need to recognize that as the world becomes increasingly more interconnected than ever before, our problems are shared. We cannot afford to view challenges through narrow, nationalistic prisms. Environmentally detrimental action in one country can affect millions of people thousands of kilometers away. Economic downturns cause populations to shift, creating challenges in countries continents away. Marginalization and oppression in one country or region can cause radicalization via modern communication tools that will lead to terrorism or violence in another hemisphere. We can no longer view our problems and challenges in isolation, nor can we dismiss the problems of others because we believe they are too far away to have an impact on us. The world shrinks every day, and with it, our responsibility to one another as human beings grows. We need to empower and include youth and women in our societies to a far greater extent. And I say that noting that the board is made up primarily of young ladies to help contribute to building a better future regionally and across the world. This is especially true in our countries where we face a youth bulge, in some cases leading to large-scale unemployment and the feeling of disenfranchisement. When young people feel they have no say in directing their future and that they have no opportunity to improve their lot in life, they become easy prey to ideologies of hatred and violence. Hand in hand with this is the requirement to educate our youth to the highest possible standard, avoiding rote memorization and instead encouraging critical thinking, empathy, and creativity in order to create flexible workforces that are able to move our societies from ones that consume to ones that make a genuine contribution to the future of mankind, and whose hopes, dreams, rights, and aspirations must therefore be taken seriously by the world at large. We must also recognize the limitations on the use of force in solving problems throughout the world. It seems that in the last 20 years, even major powers have moved from a commitment to limit the use of military force and from a realization that it has little true utility in solving conflict to a willingness to allow for increasingly aggressive tactics to deal with a host of problems, from state competition to insurgency and radicalization. The reality is that these problems have political, social, and economic roots, and their solutions lay in intelligent, imaginative, and holistic responses. Very rarely does violence achieve anything beyond creating resentment that contributes to further conflict down the line. Finally, with a growing world population approaching the planet's predicted carrying capacity, we must reconsider how we as societies allocate resources and sustain our increasingly interconnected civilization. Access to modern technologies in healthcare cannot and should not remain the purview of an increasingly small elite. We must find a way to both encourage and reward innovation while protecting the weakest and least capable within our societies and the world, and proactively searching for solutions to the disruption that increasing automation and artificial intelligence will bring to our productive populations. Most importantly, we must have faith in one another and always make an effort to understand and empathize with others. It is so easy in the modern world to become isolated in our own opinions. Even modern search engines will tailor the results of our inquiries and suggest responses in keeping with our own preferences or fundamentally held opinions and beliefs. In the name of countering radicalization or disruptive thought, large companies can deny you access to information, or others to your opinion. They can weigh search results to guide your thoughts in the direction desired by them with little oversight or accountability. The tools of the modern world give us access to vast amounts of information, some accurate, some false, and some designed to control our thinking and shape our understanding to all sorts of different ends. As thought leaders, which I pray you will all become, you need to be as aware as possible of the different uses of technology, of how it is affecting the development of our thinking, of the advantages and pitfalls it presents, and of the need to understand, and I mean truly understand, its implication to yourselves, your immediate surroundings, and the world at large. Be humble, understand, learn and adapt. Be caring, empathetic, and compassionate. And remember, we are all in this together. The impacts of our words and actions resonate across the globe. Our challenges are one, and we are all human beings with similar hopes, dreams, aspirations, and the same right to a shared and better future, inshallah. Thank you again for inviting me. Again, forgive me for my voice, and now to the fun part, I hope.